Now let's move on to some friends that are spilling some tea. Okay, real quickly, before we get into all the tea, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my pals at Chomps. They are delicious grass-fed meat sticks. They are loaded with 9 to 10 grams of protein. They're delicious. It's not your average meat stick. These are actually good. They're paleo, they're keto, they're Whole30 compliant. They don't have any sugar in them, no BS ingredients, only good, clean ingredients in the Chomp stick. So give them a try at chomps.com. Use code ZACK20 and you'll get 20% off your order. That's ZACK20 at chomps.com. Guys, if you want a nice protein packed snack, go and get your Chomps right now. So Sheena Shea and Raquel have some mutual friends, one of them being this girl, Jamie Lynn, and then also this guy, Kyle. So Kyle was the guy that originally posted the photos on Instagram and the video footage on Instagram that showed that Raquel actually had some darkness under her eye prior to the alleged assault that happened the Wednesday night that the news broke. The Wednesday night that, or not that the news broke, but the Wednesday night that the cast became aware of the affair, when Raquel found the FaceTime video on Tom's phone, and then when Sheena confronted Raquel about it, and then when Sheena allegedly punched Raquel in the face in New York. So that night, this guy Kyle had photos and videos that he posted on Instagram to prove that prior to that night, Raquel already had some darkness under her eye, which then would help prove that Sheena did not punch her and give the black eye to Raquel, which is the claim that was written in the temporary restraining order, that Sheena punched her and gave her a black eye, amongst other injuries, right? She's like, I had blurry vision, and she pushed me and she threw me into a wall, and I had an injury on the back. I had a boo-boo on the back of my head. And all of that bogus, right? Okay, so there is a podcast. Jamie Lynn has a podcast that she put out with this guy, Kyle. They're mutual friends of both Sheena and Raquel, and they mentioned it all. They spilled all of the tea, and so here are kind of the best recaps of what they revealed in this podcast episode that Jamie Lynn and this guy, Kyle, actually put out together. And they named it, I love that they named it, hashtag Team Sheena. And I believe the podcast is Jamie Tell All, Jamie All About, Jamie All Around, Jamie. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I meant to write it in my notes, but I completely blanked. But anyway, Jamie Lynn is the podcast host. And so this is what they revealed. They said that they were at Coachella with Raquel, Sandoval, Sheena, Brock, their Guzman friends, Brock's friend Joey. And so Kyle, I believe that's how his name is spelled. It's Kael. So I'm assuming that's Kyle or Kyle. I'm going to call him Kyle. So Kyle says that nothing happened between Sandoval and Raquel at Coachella. He makes that very clear because remember, there were the rumors that Raquel made out with Tom Schwartz at Coachella, and then Schwartz came out and he's like, I wasn't even at Coachella. So then everybody was starting to speculate that it's possible that they saw Raquel making out with Sandoval and not Schwartz, and maybe that's where, things got lost in translation. So Kyle's saying that that's not true, that he doesn't believe that Raquel and Tom Sandoval ever made out at Coachella, that he doesn't even know where that rumor started from. After the news broke, Kyle says that he says that he told Raquel that he needs some space from her, that he's always going to have some love in his heart for her, but right now they can't be friends and he needs some distance because this is big, this is scandalous. She was friends with Ariana, she's friends with everybody in the group, and this is a very messy situation and she needs to kind of own her shit. And that's what he told her. He's like, you need to own it, you need to sit in it, and you kind of need to take accountability for it because you were wrong. And he also says that if she chose to stay with Sandoval, then he doesn't want her to ever speak to him again because he does not rock with Sandoval. He doesn't trust Sandoval. So if she's going to move forward with a relationship with Sandoval, then her relationship with Kyle is done at this point. He also says that Raquel knew that Kyle has codependency issues. And now in retrospect, he thinks that she played him trying to trauma bond with him with, their mutual codependency experiences. And he's like, oh, she tried to manipulate me because she knew that I was vulnerable about codependency. And that was like a mutual meeting point that she tried to connect with me on. And now I feel like I'm being manipulated. And he just doesn't know if any of that was real or if it was just her way of trying to become his friend, which I think might also kind of fall under the bucket of codependency because usually a person that is codependent is dependent on meeting the other person's needs and doing whatever you need to make them happy. So it's possible that if she was just trying to befriend him with this codependency connection, that it's possible that maybe she does struggle with codependency issues and she was just trying to connect to him and get him to be her friend because she wanted him to be her friend and she wanted him to like her, so she needed to connect with him and relate with him in some type of way. So I think that there's a little bit of a blurred line there, but it's interesting because Kyle and Jamie both talk about how in retrospect, they look back at things so much differently and how, they reflect and start to see things through new eyes, whereas at the time they didn't suspect anything and they had no reason to suspect anything between Raquel and Tom, and now things are a little bit different. So he says that, he is appearing in this week's episode of Vanderpump Rules, adding that Raquel, told him that boys' night, which was the trip after Vegas when the girls all get back from Vegas and then they have boys' night, which we're going to see on this week's episode of Vanderpump Rules. Boys' night is where she and Sandoval first really connected, and that's where things really began to blossom between the two of them. I know Andy Cohen's come out and he's been very clear. He's like, look, people are going to watch this week's episode. I have not seen it yet, but he said people are going to watch this week's episode and they are absolutely going to be shooketh because they're going to think that we re-edited this, and we absolutely did not re-edit anything. None of this has been recut differently. This is the exact episode that was going to air prior to Scandival breaking. I've heard that from other people as well. They were like, wait until you see the next couple of episodes because you're going to be shocked. And this was before like things really kind of blew up. This is right when the news first had just broke that I had heard that. And I was like, oh, well, now I'm curious to see what these next episodes are going to hold. So Andy's very clear about that. Jamie Lynn remembers that exact night. And she says after boys' night later on, they went out. Kyle was not there. He left early after boys' night, but she remembers being there with them. And she remembers Raquel and Sandoval talking a lot and getting really close that night, but she says that none of them really thought anything of it, and like, why would they? Sandoval's in a long-term committed relationship with Ariana, who's Raquel's friend. Raquel is dating or showing an interest in Tom Schwartz, so it didn't seem like there would be anything going on between the two of them because there would be no reason for them to have a thing going on because they have something going on with other people. So Jamie says that she filmed this cute cheeky video of them talking from afar, and so her and their friend Brett, her and her friend Brett, they were pretending to narrate what was going on and adding all sorts of dumb commentary, kind of as a joke. And she said that she didn't end up posting that on social media or sending it to Ariana because she didn't want people to take it the wrong way, because she's like, oh, it looked like they were being really intimate. She's like, and I didn't want people to misread that situation. She didn't want them to think that something was going on between Sandoval and Raquel, which is interesting that she kind of had that thought in the back of her head, but she also didn't see what was happening right in front of her. She says she genuinely, honestly did not think that they were actually doing anything. She just thought it looked bad, sometimes there are situations that look worse than what they actually are. And without the context of being oh no, they were just, talking about the stars and the moon, then you don't really have the full details of what that conversation actually is. So she said that's why she didn't post the videos, because it looked a little too intimate. She didn't want people to take it the wrong way. She said that it looked like they were just having a deep convo about life. But she told Kyle when this all came out, Raquel, that she knows that Tom isn't the one, which is interesting because it appears that Raquel, and Tom are still together. Sorry, I'm using Rachel and Raquel interchangeably, and I'm not meaning to be shady. It just comes off the tongue at this point. But so Raquel and Tom are seemingly still together, or she seems to still want to be with him. But Kyle's like, when this all broke and I spoke to her on Saturday morning, she was very clear with me that she didn't think that Tom was the one, but that she was confused because she clearly has feelings for him. Interesting. And then regarding the FaceTime video that Ariana found, she also told Kyle that Sandy recorded the video without her permission. And he was like, well, that's kind of strange. He's like, I don't know if I actually believe her because her story felt like a total deflection. And even in their convo, he felt like she was trying to figure out a way to spin the story in her favor when she's telling Kyle everything. It felt like she was kind of laying out the details and seeing how he was reacting to certain things to see if he can kind of help her piece together what her official story should be. He says that she was more concerned with how she was going to be portrayed rather than, hurting the people that are closest to her. And he said that she told him she didn't want to be a complete villain on the show. So she's like, I don't know how to play this. And she was more concerned with what people were going to think of her, specifically Lala. He's like, she was always very concerned with what Lala thinks of her. And she was the most concerned about how Lala was going to react to this because she thought Lala was really going to come at her hard. And as we've seen, Lala is coming at her very hard. He thinks since they spoke on Saturday, someone else had been in her ear and influenced her to file the restraining order. This is the Saturday after the news broke. So literally like 24 hours after the news breaks on Friday morning, he talks to her and he's like, it just felt like after we spoke, somebody must have gotten in her ear and told her to file the restraining order because it didn't seem like she was going in that direction when he spoke to her earlier Saturday morning, when he was telling her, like, you need to own this. You screwed up and you need to figure out what you're going to do because you hurt the people that are closest to you. You hurt Sheena, who rode for you. You hurt Ariana, who befriended you. You hurt Schwartz, who feels lied to. He was conned. He was lied to. Kyle says that his background is in PR. So he says that this is really starting to feel like an entire PR spin strategy. He even says that if Raquel were his client, that the restraining order is the perfect way to get out of the Vanderpump Rules reunion. And at this point, the goal would be to distract people from what you actually did and deflect. He said, as somebody that knows the world of PR, that's what we would do. And it seems like that's actually what she is doing. And so he seems to speculate or allude to, he thinks that maybe there may be somebody in the PR world that's coaching her through this. He says that in speaking to her, it was odd because she was so calm about everything, given that her whole world had just been turned upside down and her friendships had just been fractured and whatever was going to happen with Sandoval was up in the air. And so we know that Schwartz and Raquel kissed at Sheena's wedding, and that was like a big deal for Katie, and Katie was really upset by that. And Schwartz has now come out and said that he was influenced by Sandoval to do it, that Sandoval was basically encouraging him to kiss Raquel, which was being filmed and was there for the show, which is now interesting. And it feels a lot more calculated knowing that Sandoval was influencing Schwartz and Raquel to kiss, when at that point it seemed like their affair had already begun by the time it came to Sheena's wedding, because if it started at boys' night, then there was some time between boys' night and when Sheena got married in Mexico. Jamie says that after the night of the kiss, that she asked Schwartz about, how he feels about Raquel and like about, what were your thoughts about the kiss last night? Like, are you into her? Whatever. And she claims that Schwartz told her that he wasn't into Raquel, that he wasn't really feeling the kiss, that it felt odd because she feels like more of his sister rather than a real romantic interest, which then makes me question why Schwartz then started to go along with this, him and Raquel sort of situation. And is it true that he did find out about Sandoval a lot earlier and that he was trying to cover up for them? Or was, were they just into the game of, like, obviously we know Raquel wasn't just into the game of playing with Schwartz. She had a bigger objective, which was to cover up her affair with Sandoval, and we know that was Sandoval's motivation, but I'm very curious as to what Schwartz's motivation was in moving things along, and pushing this narrative that he's dating or talking to Raquel. They also talk about Nima. And Jamie does add that Raquel did tell her that she was genuinely interested in Schwartz. So, and Jamie's like, now I don't know if I believe her because now we know she was lying to all of us and she was secretly fooling around with Sandoval. So maybe she just told me she was genuinely into Schwartz to throw me off the trail. And so they're looking back at things being like, they feel like she's a lot more manipulative than she let on initially. They talk about Nima from Shaws of Sunset and how Raquel flew out to New York to go see him. Originally, when the rumors came out that they were dating, I believe the rumor was that Nima flew Raquel out to New York. Now, according to Kyle, Raquel flew herself to New York to go see Nima and be with Nima, and then Nima ended up ghosting her. So she was really hurt by that because she felt blindsided. She really liked him. So then at this point is when she decides to go all in on Schwartz, and Jamie's like, well, maybe there was a bit of like, she was hurt, so she decided to like pivot over to Schwartz, and then Kyle's like, nah, Raquel is a very smart girl. She's a lot smarter than people think, and we can't keep giving her this, dumb card that we want to say that she is because I don't believe she's actually dumb. He also says the fact that, she's saying that Sheena punched her is a flat out lie, and that's how they know they can't believe her. Because not only did she lie to all of them for all these months, but like he knows for a fact that Sheena did not punch her. He says that a direct punch like that, because I believe he has some sort of like, I don't know if it was an MMA background or some sort of training background. And he's like, a direct punch like that would take skill. In order to punch somebody directly in the eye and cause damage like that, like Sheena would have to know how to do a closed fist straight up punch. And that's the claim, is that Raquel is saying that Sheena punched her in the face. That is what she wrote when she filed for her temporary restraining order. He also says that Raquel did not have a big black bruise when he FaceTimed her on Saturday morning when they were talking about all of this, the Saturday after the news broke. He's like, no, at that point, there was no dark bruising under her eye. There was like a little bit of bruising, but like she's always kind of had that light bruising, but he's like, it didn't seem like the damage was that bad. And they also mentioned that Raquel didn't even go into urgent care until Saturday afternoon. So this was after she spoke with Kyle that morning, and she went to urgent care in Los Angeles. Again, the alleged punch happened on Wednesday night in New York. So Wednesday night, she didn't go to urgent care for immediate assistance. Thursday, she didn't go to urgent care. Friday, she didn't go to urgent care. That's when the news broke. Then we get to Saturday, and that's when Vanderpump Rules cameras are now rolling again, and she decides, okay, I'm actually going to go. I don't know if she filmed it, but I'm assuming now that cameras are rolling, that's great to fit her narrative that, she got punched by Sheena. Why wait, 3 days to go to urgent care? Like, it's silly to wait all that time to go to urgent care. The whole point of urgent care is that you need urgent care. Like, hello, do get a brain, Luann. And for people that are saying, oh, well, Raquel does have a scratch on her eyebrow. Yes, it's true. She does have a scratch. That's a scratch. But her claim is that Sheena gave her a black eye, that Sheena caused bruising and blurry vision, and Sheena threw her into a wall, and that Sheena straight punched her in the face. Those are the words that Raquel used. Sheena punched her and caused a black eye. Now there is evidence to prove that the darkness under her eye was pre-existing. And I don't think anybody believes that Sheena punched her in the face. Maybe Sheena slapped her. Maybe Sheena threw something at her. Maybe Sheena tried to swat her off and her ring maybe scratched her face. I don't know. That's a completely different thing. And that's not what Raquel is saying. Raquel filed a legal document stating that Sheena punched her in the face and gave her a black eye. Now, when I talked to Sheena on Friday, when all of the news broke, and I asked her if the rumor was true that she punched Raquel, because I saw it going around online, Sheena told me no, she did not hit her. She's like, I absolutely did not hit her. And I believe Sheena. She used the word hit. She didn't use the word punch, which makes me assume that if you're saying I didn't hit her, that's all encompassing of a slap as well. I don't know. I wasn't there. This is my own speculation based off of the limited information I received. I didn't really push it much further because obviously they're going through a lot right now with filming and dealing with the scandal and all of that stuff, and now the legal piece of it. But, my own speculation is that it's very likely that she didn't swing at Raquel at all. And it's also not in Sheena's character. Stassi swung at Kristen. You can say, okay, Stassi has it in her. Raquel's always like, I'm going to pop off on you and I'm going to clock you and blah, blah, blah. So Lala has that, sort of energy, and she's had that energy towards Raquel in the past. So if this was a claim against one of them, I'd be like, yeah, I'm sure Lala did clock her in the face. But now Raquel went to urgent care Saturday and didn't file a restraining order until Tuesday, almost an entire week after the alleged assault, now knowing that cameras are up and rolling again. Raquel also told Kyle that she wasn't drunk, or she told Kyle that she was drunk the night of the alleged assault. But the urgent care report claims that she didn't have any alcohol in her system. And Kyle's like, yeah, of course the report's going to say she didn't have any alcohol in her system because it's literally days later. Her body's metabolized that alcohol from Wednesday night at that point. But he's claiming that she told him that she was drunk that night. Jamie also talks about the night at the Canyon Club when James got thrown out. It's what we saw, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, the night that Raquel went up to Schwartz and she's like, Schwartz, you want to make out? So that night, Jamie was there, and she says that James got thrown out, and apparently there was a woman there, and that woman was filming on her iPhone what was going down. And Raquel also got out her phone and was filming James getting kicked out as well. And then Raquel got access. Raquel obviously had her video, but she got access to the other video from the other woman, and she gave both videos to production, the one that was filmed by her and the one that was filmed by this other woman at the club, and then lied to production and told production that Jamie is the one that filmed these videos. So then production wanted Jamie to sign a release to use the footage, and Jamie's like, I'm not going to sign a release to have you use this footage because it's not my footage to take, and I'm not going to put my signature on a legal document for footage that other people tape because I don't want this to come back to bite me in the butt. She's like, I'm not going to lie for Raquel. Like, that's silly. Why can't Raquel just tell them that she recorded the videos herself? Why is she even lying to her employer? Why is she trying to deceive them? She's like, she has a pattern of lying, and it doesn't make sense. So Raquel then asked somebody else to say that they filmed it and asked them to sign the release, but they also declined because at that point, it does become a liability issue. If production gets the wrong sign off from the wrong people and then moves forward with this footage, the woman that originally filmed it at the club, who I believe doesn't have a close connection to any of these people, she could very easily then sue the network and be like, hey, that was my footage and you didn't have permission to use that. I want some money out of this. It would be a bogus lawsuit. It probably wouldn't go very far, and it probably would just be like an annoyance to the network. But like, that does become a liability issue. So production couldn't use any of that footage because they couldn't get anybody to actually sign off on it because Rachel wouldn't sign off on it. But it's a good, it's quite the podcast episode. So that's all the tea that they spilled. They don't believe that Raquel is telling the truth. They believe she's a lot smarter than she's given off, and she's a lot more calculated. It doesn't seem like any of them have had any contact with her, but yeah, curious what you guys think and how you feel about this. They're definitely Team Sheena because they're like, we don't believe that Sheena punched her, and we believe that Raquel is lying about this because Raquel has lied about a number of other things in the past, and she deceived us and she manipulated us, and we don't even know who she is at this point.